Hi. Okay, let's go with Revelation 13 and 14 for this one. I tried to make a Revelation 13 video last weekend and it just didn't work out. So I'm just going to do 13 and 14 together, which is fine because I want to get through Revelation. And I have a couple of thoughts to share first, kind of like a preface of where my mind kind of is in reading this and what I'm trying to think over. So maybe it's good that the video was a little delayed because things just keep coming to my mind, and so just praying about it. Yeah, so I want to say that the way I'm taking all these symbols is kind of half disagreeing that they're symbols and half that they are. And the reason I say that, and I was talking to my husband, so the words just kind of came out as I was talking and thinking out loud. What have we been taught about things like beasts and dragons, just in children's literature and, movies, blah, blah, blah? What have we been taught? That they're myth and folklore and things like that. So I was thinking, okay, we've always been taught these beasts and animals were pretend, for lack of a better word, but yet dinosaurs are real, okay? Supposedly. So evolution is a bunch of bunk, but then if we would take a moment and think, well, maybe the dragons aren't, maybe these beasts and creatures that we see in medieval and earlier art aren't bunk. So then I started thinking about, I wish I could say it the way I said it yesterday. I never can say things like that twice. So I'm just going to try to think of how I termed it, how I said it. So, okay, if we've been taught dragons and beasts that are strange were folklore and myth, then growing up, we would not think otherwise, okay? And we would continue to believe that. Now, what I'm saying in connection with Revelation is it wouldn't be all symbology or symbolic if these animals and types were real. And furthermore, these people back in medieval times, which is the contention of the mystery history part, and when and if these things already took place. So if people, humankind, were used to seeing these spiritual creatures, and no doubt dragons were usually attacking. We've seen spiritual attacks in these art depictions. I've seen them in the past, like when Flirt with British shows them, or UAP or Autodidactic. You see these knights defending their towns from these dragons, or these dragons looming over these people. So, would it be so uncommon if this has already all happened, that a true beast would come up out of the sea and the people would then have a decision to make to bow down and worship, like we'll read, and acquiesce, or fight against, which is what we deal with now and all of time, since Satan has fallen himself. That's what it is. So I'm just curious how much of our reading is truly symbolic and how much of it is literal. And I wonder if too much of Revelation has become symbolic, where people have to make up these understandings, because if we saw a beast coming up out of the sea, I'm reading verse 1 in chapter 13, as you see, with 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns he had 10 royal crowns, diadems, and blasphemous titles, names on his heads. We would have no idea what we were looking at. We would have no idea whether we were dreaming or not. And the people depicted in art in the past seem to have known what they were dealing with, meaning evil. Verse 2, I'm just going to start reading. And the beast that I saw resembled a leopard, but his feet were like those of a bear, and his mouth was like that of a lion. And to him the dragon gave his own might and power, and his own throne and great dominion. And one of his heads seemed to have a deadly wound, but his death stroke was healed. And the whole earth went after the beast in amazement and admiration. This death stroke, I think in the Greek, was a plague. So it's not like he had a bullet wound or something, or a spear in his head. Something to the effect of plague. I'm just going to leave it at that, but that's what I read. Verse 4, they fell down and paid homage to the dragon, because he had bestowed on the beast all his dominion and authority. They also praised and worshipped the beast, exclaiming, who is the match for the beast, and who can make war against him? Verse 5, and the beast was given the power of speech, uttering boastful, blasphemous words, and he was given freedom to exert his authority and exercise his will during 42 months, 3.5 years. Now, this is just taking... Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. The beast was given the power of speech. Now, the Bible is plain. The Bible isn't a confusing book, okay? So I think we make for ourselves problems when we make it symbolic because it's too confusing otherwise. But that's man's wisdom and not Yah's wisdom. So obviously a beast can't talk. Now, it just came to mind, remember Moses at the burning bush, and he said, I don't have the speech, I don't have good, he was arguing with God going before Pharaoh, I don't have good speech. And some people speculate that he had a stutter or something like that. So it doesn't say back in Exodus that Moses was given the power of speech to go before Pharaoh or anything like that, and Aaron spoke anyways, but that's beside the point. But let's compare here. The beast was given the power of speech. That means this beast was given the ability to communicate. So to me, that wouldn't mean the beast is a human. I'd have to look up the Greek for power of speech. You really have to be careful. It doesn't make sense to say, well, this man was given the power to speech. Well, men can speak. Beasts cannot. Okay? So that's where I'm coming from. And he opened his mouth to speak slanders against Yah, blaspheming his name and his abode, even vilifying those who live in heaven. So, blaspheming against all of heaven and Yah himself. God. He was further permitted to wage war on God's holy people, the saints, to overcome them. And the power was given to him to extend his authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation, the whole world. Verse 8, and the inhabitants of the earth will fall down in adoration and pay homage, everyone whose name has not been recorded in the book of life of the Lamb that was slain and sacrificed from the foundation of the world. Yeshua. If anyone is able to hear, let him listen. Okay, so here's a warning. Hear this. Listen. Whoever leads into captivity will himself go into captivity. If anyone slays with the sword must he be slain. Herein is the call for patience, faith, and fidelity of the saints, God's people. Okay, so there's a call to do these things. Listen, hear, have patience and faith and fidelity, honesty in this time when you see everything going against what you would think is supposed to be. Verse 11. Then I saw another beast rising up out of the land itself. He had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke, roared like a dragon. Okay, so he roared like a dragon. I guess it says he spoke. Okay, verse 12, he exerts all the power and right of control of the former beast in his presence and causes the earth and those who dwell upon it to exalt and deify the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed, and to worship him. He performs great signs, startling miracles, even making fire fall from the sky to the earth in men's sight. Haven't we seen a lot of that depicted in old art? And because of the signs, miracles, which he is allowed to perform in the presence of the first beast, he deceives those who inhabit the earth, commanding them to erect a statue, an image in the likeness of the beast who's wounded by the small sword and still lived. Oh, okay, so it did say plague. Now it says small sword. I don't know who put that small sword in him. Do you? Okay. And he is permitted also to impart the breath of life into the beast's image, so that the statue of the beast could actually talk and cause to be put to death those who would not bow down and worship the image of the beast. So a true idol coming to life, obviously by demonic powers. So that no one will have power to buy or sell unless he bears the stamp, the mark inscription that is the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, so here's where a lot of different people have a lot of different opinions on things. Okay, here is room for discernment, a call for wisdom of interpretation. Let anyone who has intelligence, I want to look at this, I'm sorry, oh, just a footnote, a literal footnote. Who has intelligence, penetration, and insight enough, calculate the number of the beast. For it is a human number, a number of a certain man. His number is 666. So I'm going to stop there. I did find a few interesting things about this number, and either I don't remember learning this or I forgot. About this number not actually being the number. So I would tend to disagree with those. Nowadays saying, oh, the C ID for the poke has 3 6s in it from, the weirdo with the glasses. And, if we don't get the poke, then we can't buy or sell. That's not what this is, and I don't think it's anything close to this. And I'm pretty sure maybe some of you have heard about Nero being a possibility of his number being 666. And I'll get to that. So the first guy I looked up on YouTube, he actually had a complete trigonometrical what's it called? Math problem. And I love math. I just never was given the opportunity to grow in it. So I'm gonna leave his link of the video I found. It's only like, I think it's 3 minutes or something. So it's really easy. He just breaks it down super easily. So 666 is the beast number, and he was talking about the holy number in math is the golden ratio. So that's 1.61803398887. And that's called the divine proportion. So when you take 666, so he said sine times 666 plus cosine. I'll let you watch the video. I'm not going to read it all. Anyways, 666 ends up being the reverse, the additive inverse, which is the negative number of the divine ratio, of the golden ratio. So the golden ratio was 1.618 The number 666 in this problem ends up being negative 1.618 So that was just interesting that however Revelation is played out or will be played out, it's the complete opposite end of the holy number. It's just interesting. So, another man I really like to listen to about Gematria and Hebrew, the numbering, what it adds up to in the Hebrew letters and the Greek. He's really good at it. I'm going to put his link on the bottom too. But he talks about calculating the number 666. And Yeshua's number is 888. And that means he will save from the Hebrew letters. No, I'm sorry, Greek letters. And then he said the number 666 was actually translated into the word tradition. And it's seen as a negative light in this context, which has to be overcome. He talked a little bit about the Antichrist too, but I'm not going to go so much into that. Just meaning that this person is not a substitute for, but it is a substitute for, it's instead of. Not against Christ. It's not just against Christ. He is wanting to be in the place of. There's one more that talked about Nero, that in the Latin 616 is the actual number, and Nero is 666. And then David's number is 14. So I'll leave the links for those. It's just something interesting. I think there's so much that we don't understand about. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I think you know what I'm saying. This is where I don't want the Bible to get confusing. You don't have to have the understanding of trigonometry to understand this, but Yah is calling for things, whether it be now or in the past, for wisdom of interpretation. I did read one thing where it said this number was a code that John used to warn people of who it was, which he was referring to Nero. In that case, this has already happened. But I'm giving you a couple examples of what it could be. I don't know. Because we definitely don't see a beast coming to life during Nero's time. Literally. So anyways, I just wanted to say those couple things. That's chapter 13. Take or leave what I say. I'm just thinking out loud, basically. That's what this is. So now we're going to go to chapter 14. And I have some interesting thoughts that came to me yesterday about 14. So we're going to go to 14. Whoops. That was too much. 1 second here. Revelation. Oh, it's right there. Okay. There we go. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Okay. I want to show you a couple pictures before we move on. This was Nero's Golden Palace. Mud flood is all get out, as is all of these buildings back here. I have no idea what to make of this. Now this is water. There's an obelisk like in the Vatican. You know what that all means. Hopefully, if you don't, just go look it up. I'm not going to get into it. Huge. This is just gigantic. Not so much in height, but in breadth, width. The groves. There's lots of groves. There's lots of miniature type buildings. I never envisioned Rome like this. I don't have any background about this depiction, but this was just interesting to think about. I'm always trying to think about what time frame this is all in. Now, Revelation 14 is about the 144,000 and the harvesting of the angels. So I want to look at Google Earth because I want to look at the electrical scarring. And I'm sorry, I don't remember the technical term for it. Someone can remind me in the comments. Whoever discovered his name. So I actually used to live in Colorado. My husband's from there, and hopefully we can move back there. Basically, all of the Rocky Mountains are one big scarring. So I just want you to pay attention to how gigantic these are. We're not talking about lightning strikes, okay? And if it was, it would be a gigantic one. Okay, so this is Colorado Rockies are down there, Rockies, Canadian Rockies. Okay. Zoop, goes all the way up into Alaska. Just look at the scarring, okay? That's why I'm doing this. Scarring. A little bit up here. Okay, and then it goes all the way down. South America. And the Sierra Mountains also. Okay. Something happened here. Okay. I just want to go down to South America because there's some gigantic scarring. I know you've probably seen this, but it's just interesting. These things intrigue me to no end. I just want to know what happened. Okay, where'd it go? Okay. Bam. I mean, it's like Earth was like split down the middle or something. Here we go. Okay. It's easier to see with the snow, I guess. Who really knows? That's interesting too. Anyway, okay. So that's the electric scarring. Back to our country, or my country. I don't know where your country is. Not on the ball. Okay. Not on a ball. Okay, so there's electric scarring. Okay, keep this in mind. I'm over here if anybody would like to know. Okay, keep that in mind because something came to mind while reading Revelation 14. Then I looked, and behold, the Lamb stood on Mount Zion, Yeshua, and with him 144,000 men who had his name and his father's name inscribed on their foreheads. Just FYI, there is a Zion, Utah. I don't know where it is. I heard recently it's about 6 hours from Moab. Can't find it on here. I don't want to get too off course, but I'm just saying. There is a Zion, Utah. There's also a Zion, Illinois. Okay. So these men were with him and had his name and his father's name, Yahuwah and Yahusha, on the foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven like the sound of great waters and like the rumbling of mighty thunder. The voice I heard seemed like music of harpists accompanying themselves on the harps. Okay, so he heard a voice from heaven, great like the ocean waters, I am assuming, in thunder, but it was melodious. Okay, so the loudest, most beautiful voice you can imagine. That's what I thought of. Okay. And they sang a new song before the throne of Yahuwah, and before the 4 living creatures, and before the elders of the heavenly Sanhedrin. No one could learn to sing that song except the 144,000 who had been ransomed, purchased, redeemed from the earth. So these men, I'm assuming, were redeemed from the earth during the beast's reign. These are they who have not defiled themselves by relations with women, for they are pure as virgins. These are they who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These are they who have been ransomed, purchased, redeemed from among men as the first fruits for God and the Lamb. No lie was found upon their lips, and they were blameless, spotless, untainted, without blemish before the throne of God. Okay. Here's where it gets interesting, too. I'm very interested about that song, but I really don't have anywhere to go with it. Verse 6, Then I saw another angel flying in midair with an eternal gospel, good news, an eternal gospel. The gospel is eternal. To tell the inhabitants of the earth, to every race and tribe and language and people. And he cried with a mighty voice, Revere God and give him glory, honor, and praise and worship, for the hour of his judgment has arrived. Fall down before him, pay homage and adoration, and worship him who created heaven and earth, and the sea and the springs, fountains of water. So, as people on earth are paying homage to this beast, this great, mighty voice and this singing is coming from the mountain in heaven, shouting and proclaiming who is truly to be worshipped. Then another angel, a second followed, declaring, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who had made all nations drink of the maddening wine of her passionate unchastity, idolatry, what has been going on earth. In chapter 13. Then another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a mighty voice, Whoever pays homage to the beast and his statue and permits the beast's stamp, the mark or inscription, to be put on his forehead or on his hand, he too shall have to drink of the wine of God's indignation and wrath, poured undiluted into his cup of anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Okay. So just as Yahuwah has a mark, the beast had a mark, Yahuwah has a mark. 777. Which I don't have the translation in words for that. I'm sorry. Maybe someone knows that and can add. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever, and they have no respite, no pause, no intermission, no rest, no peace, day or night. These who pay homage to the beast, to his image, and whoever receives the stamp of his name upon him. Here comes in for a call for the steadfastness of the saints, the patient endurance of God's people, those who habitually keep God's commands and their faith in Yeshua, or Yahusha. Then I heard further, perceiving the distinct words of a voice from heaven saying, Write this, blessed, happy to be envied are the dead from now on who die in Yah. Blessed, happy to be envied indeed, says the Spirit, in that they may rest from their labors, for their works do follow them. Again I looked, and behold, I saw a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud one resembling a son of man, with a crown of gold on his head, and a sharp scythe or sickle in his hand. Okay. Consensus of opinion concerning the Son of Man. Thus, the capitals are tentatively presented as a possible interpretation. We don't know if this is Yeshua because he's on the mountain in verse 1. I think that's the term in hand. So this could be an angel. Okay. Because Yahusha is up here with the 144,000. I think that's why. So good to note. Okay, I want to put your imagination into gear. Okay. This is why I showed you these. All right. Just a theory. Another angel came out of the temple sanctuary, calling with a mighty voice to him who's sitting upon the cloud, "Put in your scythe, your sickle, and reap, for the hour has arrived to gather the harvest, for the earth's crop is fully ripened." So he who was sitting upon the cloud swung his sickle on the earth, and the earth's crop was harvested. Then another angel came out of the temple sanctuary in heaven. He also carried a sharp scythe, sickle. And another angel came forth from the altar, the angel who has authority and power over fire. Fire. He called with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle, "Put forth your sickle and reap the fruitage of the vine of the earth, for for its grapes are entirely ripe." So the angel swung his scythe on earth and stripped the grapes and gathered the vintage from the vines of the earth and cast it into the huge winepress of God's indignation and wrath. And the grapes in the winepress were trodden outside the city, and blood poured from the winepress, reaching as high as horses' bridles for the distance of 200 miles. Okay. When I started thinking about this harvest, okay, two things. So obviously we have the ultimate of good and evil here. And we also have the ultimate of the harvest and then the judgment. So I'm not going to get into this part because I can't translate that properly. I mean, I have my commentary. I guess he could say what he wants to say about that. I didn't look at everything he talked about with that. Anyways, let's just think about it from like a mystery history standpoint, okay? Because that's kind of where my mind is going anyways. This power over fire, I imagine this sickle of fire. Like, that's what I thought of when I saw this. You get it? Now, there is a theory that there were many, many more people on Earth in a past time. If this has already happened, things would have been wiped out from fire. I'm just showing the United States because I'm in the United States. There's other scarring all over the world, as you probably know. Probably more than I know. That could be the explanation for all of this. Guess we could go over across the ocean. Don't mind the ball. Ooh, getting too dizzy. Okay, so sarcasm. Wiped. Swipe, harvest. People taken up. Oh, swipe. This could have been just one big landmass. We don't know. I think this probably was all somehow, I don't know, one big mass at one time. Desolate. Okay. Anyways, back to my area. That's all I'm saying. That is exactly what came to my mind when I read this. So take it or leave it, friends. Kind of made me excited because it kind of gave me an understanding, kind of. So let's be praying, and Especially, let's be thinking about what the Bible has been telling believers in this chapter and the previous. Obviously, worshiping Yah in adoration and homage, paying homage, having patience, being blameless, honest, discerning. What were the other words? Let's go back to chapter 13. There's a lot in here to be doing. To calculate, hear and listen. A lot of commands. It says if anybody is able to hear, let him listen. So that's the first point. We have to get to this point for understanding. And then we're to be patient and have faith and honesty, fidelity, even to the death. Yeah. And I know a lot of people get turned away from the Most High because of his supposed harsh judgments. But he always gives plenty of opportunity to come to him through many different means, I must say. So be listening. There's my theories about the symbolic nature of Revelation and this scarring and the sickle and the judgment. I'm sure Revelation is going to get more intense, so I don't know what we're going to do with that. Yah's going to lead me. And yeah, keep being patient, keep being sober. It's not over yet. We're still here. So whether this happened back whenever or not, we're still here. Anyways, yeah. So that's all I have. Blessings.